Video 12, expansion of voting rights, political beliefs and behavior. Back at it one more time. Alright, some basic terms here. Suffrage means the right to vote, but so does the word franchise. Typically, you won't see the term used in that way to say that a group gained franchise, like the 19th Amendment, for instance, women, or the 15th Amendment, black men. You would typically see that word as disenfranchised, meaning that the right to vote has been taken away. But both of those terms mean the right to vote. Some obstacles that were used to prevent minorities, specifically African Americans, from voting. One of them was a literacy test. It required voters to pass a reading test to be able to vote. The purpose of this was to disenfranchise black voters. You guys can spend some time if you want to pause this and look at this literacy test. I mean, this thing is absurd, but that's the kind of thing done to stop black people from voting, as well as a poll tax. So again, you got to think post-1870, a lot of black people were former slaves, not educated, not allowed. It was against the law for them to be taught to read. So obviously illiterate and didn't have very much money either. Again, the point of this was to disenfranchise black voters. However, you got to remember that at the same time, there's lots of poor white people that were illiterate too. So what they did is they introduced something called the Grandfather Clause. And this allowed a person to vote if he or his ancestors could vote before 1867. Well, guess when the 15th Amendment was passed? 1870. So guess who could not vote in 1867? No black people. So essentially this was a loophole allowing poor white people to vote, poor illiterate white people to vote, again to prevent poor illiterate black people from voting. Additionally, there is something called the white primary. All right, so this one takes a little explanation here. What happens here is that in the South, in this era, the Reconstruction era, the South is known as the one-party South. That party was the Democratic Party. So the South voted entirely for Democrats for pretty much 100 years, 130 years really. It always voted Democrat, 130 years, till 1964 is when that started to get shaken up. So as a result of that, the general election wasn't the most important election in the South, because whoever the Democrat ran against, whatever Republican, the Democrat was going to win. So what that means is that for the South in this era, primaries were actually the most important election. So what they did is they said, all right, you have to be white to vote in a party primary. And the Supreme Court allowed this to happen because they said that primaries are private elections run by the parties, not run by the states. So they were allowed to choose who could and who could not vote in their primaries. Other obstacles include registration requirements, intimidation, the KKK, things like that obviously would discourage you from voting if that's what you had to face if you wanted to go vote. All right, this has been a La Money production.